Disney World fans are not a group that gives up easily. These are people who have planned trips 18 months in advance, who memorize park hours, who argue about rope drop strategy on the internet at midnight. When the people who love Disney the most start saying out loud that the experience is no longer worth what Disney charges for it, something has genuinely changed. Here are the 11 reasons why visiting Disney World isn't worth it anymore, and why fans are finally admitting it. Reason 11. The price trajectory is disconnected from reality. Walt Disney World's price increases over the past decade have not been modest inflation adjustments. They have been structural repricing of an experience that used to be accessible to middle-income American families as an occasional special trip, and that is now a luxury product with luxury price tags. In 2014, a one-day Magic Kingdom ticket cost approximately $97. By 2024, the same single-day Magic Kingdom admission can cost anywhere from $109 on the lowest demand days to $189 on the highest demand days under Disney's date-based pricing system, which launched in 2016. That top price is not a special event ticket. It is the standard admission price for a regular operating day that falls during peak demand periods. A family of 4 buying tickets for a single day in mid-December or spring break is looking at potentially $756 in admission alone before entering the park. The full cost calculation for a 4-night, 4-day Disney World trip for a family of 4, including a Disney Resort hotel at a mid-tier property, park tickets, park hopper add-ons, meals on the Disney dining plan or equivalent, and transportation, routinely exceeds $8,000 to $10,000 as of 2024. Families who budgeted $5,000 for a Disney trip in 2018 are now finding that the same experience costs almost double that, with no proportional increase in what they receive for the money. The specific comparison that fans make most consistently: for the cost of a Disney World vacation, a family can go to Europe for the same duration, or take multiple domestic vacations, or spend a week at an all-inclusive Caribbean resort with far less logistical complexity and comparable quality of experience. The price trajectory also applies to the ancillary spending that Disney has layered on top of admission. The premium paid experiences, Disney after-hours events, approximately $135 to $199 per person. Mickey's Not-So-Scary Halloween Party, approximately $109 to $199 per person. Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, approximately $129 to $199 per person, are technically optional but have been structured so that the experiences they provide, lower crowds, exclusive ride access, character meet and greets and manageable queues, represent what a Disney World visit used to be before the premium pricing era. Paying for the after-hours event is, in a documented way, paying to access the lower crowd experience that was the standard park experience 15 years ago. The specific calculation that longtime fans find difficult to ignore: Disney World's per capita spending, the revenue Disney extracts from each visitor, has increased dramatically, and the per capita guest satisfaction, by Disney's own internal measurements and by third-party tracking, has not increased proportionally. The company is getting more money per guest and delivering a guest experience that surveys consistently rate as declining relative to pre-pandemic benchmarks. Reason 10. The Genie Plus system feels like being charged twice. Before 2021, Disney World had FastPass Plus, a system that allowed guests to book 3 ride reservations in advance and avoid the standby line for those attractions at no additional cost beyond park admission. It was free. Guests who planned carefully could use it to significantly improve their park experience. In October 2021, Disney replaced FastPass Plus with Genie Plus, a paid service that costs $24 to $35 per person per day. Pricing varies by date and park. For that fee, guests can book Lightning Lane reservations one at a time throughout the day, replacing FastPass Plus's advanced booking model with a same-day, app-dependent, constantly managed system that requires guests to be on their phones at 7 a.m. every morning of their trip. Individual Lightning Lane, the separate purchase required for the most popular attractions, Tron Light Cycle/Run, Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and a small number of other headline rides, costs an additional $10 to $25 per person per ride on top of Genie Plus. A family of 4 wanting to use both Genie Plus and the 2 most popular individual Lightning Lane attractions on a single day is spending an additional $200 to $300 beyond park admission just to avoid waiting in line. The structural complaint from fans is not simply about cost. It is about the conversion of a free guest benefit into a paid service, while simultaneously making the park experience demonstrably worse for guests who do not pay the additional fees. Standing in a standby line for 90 to 120 minutes for a popular attraction while watching a steady parade of Lightning Lane guests walk past is a qualitatively different experience from the pre-2021 park. The guests in the standby line paid full admission. They are being reminded continuously that they did not pay for the upgraded experience that other guests have. Reason 9. The app replaced the magic with homework. The My Disney Experience app, the operational backbone of a Disney World trip, is now essentially mandatory for navigating the park experience. Mobile order is required for most quick-service dining locations, meaning that getting food at the park requires a functional smartphone, a data connection, and familiarity with the app's sometimes counterintuitive interface. Genie Plus reservations require the app. Individual Lightning Lane purchases require the app. Virtual queues for specific attractions require the app. Checking wait times requires the app. What this means in practice, a Disney World guest in 2024 is expected to manage a continuous series of app-based tasks throughout every day of their trip, securing Genie Plus reservations at 7 a.m. before leaving the hotel, checking and refreshing Lightning Lane availability throughout the day, placing mobile food orders 20 to 30 minutes before wanting to eat, monitoring virtual queue entry times. A high-quality Disney World trip now requires active phone management for approximately 30 to 60 minutes per park day, beyond the park visit itself. The specific guest complaint documented in park reviews and Disney fan communities is the feeling that the park requires active optimization rather than allowing passive enjoyment. Families with young children, who theoretically represent Disney's core audience, find the app management especially disruptive. The parent who is managing app reservations is not fully present in the experience the app is supposed to be enhancing. Disney built a technology system that efficiently extracts money from guests and simultaneously reduces the quality of the experience it is supposed to improve. Reason 8. The resort hotels are no longer of value. Disney World's resort hotels were historically justified by a specific value proposition: the proximity to the parks, the free transportation system, the extra hours in the parks available to resort guests, and the ability to book FastPass Plus reservations earlier than non-resort guests. These benefits added up to a meaningful premium over staying off-property. The resort hotel pricing in 2024 ranges from approximately $150 to $200 per night at value tier hotels, Pop Century, Art of Animation, All-Star Resorts, to $400 to $600 per night at moderate tier, Port Orleans, Coronado Springs, to $600 to over $2,000 per night at deluxe resorts, Grand Floridian, Wilderness Lodge, Yacht and Beach Club. These are nightly rates for hotel rooms in Central Florida, a market where off-property hotels of equivalent or better quality exist within 15 minutes of the parks for $100 to $200 per night. The specific benefit calculation has shifted since 2021. The FastPass Plus early booking benefit that justified resort hotel premiums has been replaced by the Genie Plus system, which offers all guests the same 7 a.m. booking window regardless of resort status. The early park entry benefit, 30 minutes before published opening for resort guests, is real but limited. The free transportation via Disney buses, boats, and the Skyliner gondola system is genuinely useful but slower than driving for guests with cars. The specific fan calculation, Staying at a value resort for a 5-night trip costs approximately $750 to $1,000 more than staying at a comparable off-property hotel, with the difference in transportation logistics being the primary practical consequence rather than any meaningful difference in park access. Reason 7. The crowds have been deliberately maintained at uncomfortable levels. Disney World manages its crowd levels through pricing. The logic is straightforward. If you charge more and more for tickets, the crowd should thin as the marginal visitor declines to pay. The reality is that Disney's pricing increases have not meaningfully reduced crowds. They have priced out the lower-income guests and replaced them with higher-income guests, while maintaining roughly the same total attendance. Walt Disney World's annual attendance has remained in the range of approximately 50 to 58 million visits per year for the 4 parks combined across the period of significant price increases. The crowds have not thinned. The guests have more money, on average, and they are paying more. But the parks feel as crowded as they ever did, and in some metrics, more crowded, because the guest population in the parks in 2024 is more concentrated in fewer attraction experiences, the premium Lightning Lane attractions, than in the pre-Genie Plus era. The date-based pricing model was marketed to guests as a tool for managing crowds. Choose less popular days, and the ticket is cheaper, which theoretically spreads attendance across the calendar. In practice, the less popular days are still legitimately crowded by any reasonable measure of theme park crowd density. Even on the lowest priced days, popular attractions like Tron Light Cycle/Run, Avatar Flight of Passage, and Space Mountain can post 60 to 90-minute standby waits on a regular basis. The crowd distribution problem is compounded by Disney's park strategy. Over the past decade, Disney World has added new lands and new attractions at a rate that has not kept pace with the increase in visitor demand that Disney's own marketing has generated. Galaxy's Edge opened at Hollywood Studios in 2019. Tron opened at Magic Kingdom in 2023, and Tiana's Bayou Adventure replaced Splash Mountain in 2024. But each new addition generates concentrated demand for that specific attraction, while the total capacity of the parks, in terms of rides, shows, and queue space, has not expanded proportionally to the increase in total visitors. The specific guest experience of this imbalance: a guest who arrives at Hollywood Studios intending to experience Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Star Wars, Rise of the Resistance, and Slinky Dog Dash in a single day will spend a significant portion of that day in lines, regardless of their Genie Plus strategy. The attractions are genuinely excellent. There are not enough of them for the number of guests trying to experience them. Disney's response has been to charge guests for the ability to wait less in line rather than to increase the capacity that would reduce the wait times fundamentally. Reason 6. The food quality doesn't match the price. Disney World's in-park dining has always been more expensive than comparable food in the outside world, and the general acceptance was that you were paying for the ambiance and the convenience. In 2024, in-park food costs have risen to levels that are harder to rationalize even with that framework. A quick service meal at a counter in Magic Kingdom, a burger, fries, and a drink, runs $20 to $25 per person. A table service meal at a mid-tier park restaurant costs $40 to $60 per person before alcohol. The character dining experiences that families book for their children, Cinderella's Royal Table, Be Our Guest, the Crystal Palace, range from approximately $65 to $90 per person for a meal that guests report as rushed, with character interaction measured in seconds rather than minutes per table. The specific guest complaint is the disconnect between the price and the quality. The food at $22 quick service meals is not $22 food. The burger at Cosmic Ray's Starlight Cafe, the chicken strips at Pecos Bill Tall Tale Inn and Cafe, the pasta at ABC Commissary, these are documented as functional, unremarkable food at premium prices. The ambiance is the Disney parks, which is worth something, but the amount it is worth has been tested by consecutive years of price increases and a guest population that is doing the math. Reason 5. The maintenance and show quality have visibly declined. Disney's historic competitive advantage over every other theme park in the world was not simply the IP or the rides, it was the execution. Disney maintained its parks at a standard that no competitor matched. Attractions were kept in operating condition, effects were repaired when they broke, the specific sensory environment of each land was actively managed to maintain the designed atmosphere. In the post-pandemic period, Disney World has been documented by the park community in systematic ways to have deferred maintenance at a scale that is visible and affecting guest experience. Specific examples that have been photographed, discussed, and reported. Broken audio animatronic figures left non-functional for extended periods, notably in classic attractions like the Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, and the Hall of Presidents, water effects and lighting that are intermittently non-operational, and specific practical effects in new attractions that were degrading within their first years of operation. The specific standard that is being compared against is Disney's own historical performance, not a competitor's. Disney used to fix broken show elements within days or hours. The current operational standard produces broken effects that remain non-operational for weeks or months before being addressed. Guests who have been visiting Disney World for 20 or 30 years have a specific reference point for what Disney quality means. And the current show quality in multiple attractions does not meet that historical standard. As Disney historian and author Tim Foster, who has written extensively about Walt Disney World's development, described the shift. Disney for decades competed on the quality of execution rather than on the novelty of the attraction. The rides weren't always the newest or the most technologically advanced. They were the best maintained and the best presented. That's the standard that's eroding, and longtime guests can see it clearly. Reason 4. The park experience is now maximally monetized. Disney World in 2024 operates on a monetization model that attempts to extract revenue from every guest interaction. Parking at the Disney Resort Hotel is free for guests, but day guests pay $30 to $50 for parking at theme parks. The stroller rental inside the parks costs approximately $20 to $30 per day. Locker rentals, which are required at some attractions for loose articles, cost $10 to $15 per rental. Ice water used to be available for free at quick service locations when requested. This practice has been inconsistently maintained since the pandemic. The specific complaint from the fan community is not any single cost, but the aggregate of small charges that are experienced as a relentless extraction throughout the day. Each individual item, the parking, the locker, the Genie Plus, the individual lightning lane, the upcharge character experience, the premium meal, can be justified individually. The aggregate cost of all of them in a single park day adds $100 to $200 to the already significant ticket and hotel costs. Disney's previous approach was to remove friction. The Magic Band system, the all-inclusive dining plan, the included transportation were all mechanisms for making the guest feel that they were in a curated world where the logistics were handled. The current model creates friction specifically at each monetization point: the app prompts, the lightning lane upsell screens, the character dining reservation complexity, and the cumulative friction is experienced by guests as a negative shift in the relationship between Disney and its guests. The Disney Dining Plan, which allowed guests to prepay for a set number of meals and snacks as part of their resort package, simplifying the in-park dining decision and producing a specific "I already paid for this" psychological state that encouraged more relaxed spending, was suspended during the pandemic in 2020 and was brought back in limited form in 2024 after sustained pressure from the guest community. The multi-year absence of the dining plan was specifically documented as one of the factors that made Disney Resort hotel packages less attractive relative to pre-pandemic offerings. The free Magic Band, the RFID wristband that Disney provided at no charge to resort guests, allowing them to open room doors, charge purchases, and enter parks without physical tickets, is now a paid product. Magic Bands must be purchased for approximately $34.99, or guests can use their phones. The change was announced as a sustainability initiative, reducing waste from the distribution of free wristbands. It was received by the guest community primarily as an example of a previously free product being converted to a paid one, a pattern that, across multiple Disney services and amenities, is the central narrative of the post-2020 Disney guest relationship. The specific irony documented by long-term fans, Disney's operational philosophy under Bob Iger's first tenure, 2005 to 2020, included specific initiatives to add value to the guest experience: free Magic Bands, free FastPass Plus, free resort hotel parking, the Magical Express airport shuttle. Under the post-pandemic operational approach, most of these have been eliminated or converted to paid services. The Magical Express airport shuttle, which transported guests between Orlando International Airport and Disney Resort hotels for free, was discontinued entirely in January 2022. Reason 3. The parking, transportation, and arrival experience are genuinely miserable. Getting to Disney World's parks from anywhere other than a Disney Resort hotel involves a specific sequence of logistics that has become significantly more cumbersome than it was a decade ago. Day guests parking at Magic Kingdom drive to the Transportation and Ticket Center parking lot, park, take a tram to the TTC facility, and then board either the monorail or a ferry boat to reach the Magic Kingdom entrance. The full process from parking a car to reaching the park entrance takes 30 to 60 minutes on a typical day, and significantly longer during peak arrival periods. The tram system that transported guests from the parking lot to the TTC was suspended during the pandemic in 2020 and remained suspended for an extended period, requiring guests to walk the full parking lot distance. Disney restored the trams in 2024 after sustained pressure from guests and media. But the years of tramless parking were extensively documented as one of the most consistent specific complaints in Disney World reviews. The resort transportation system, the buses, boats, and Skyliner gondola network has capacity limitations that produce specific failure modes during peak periods. Morning rush to the parks produces buses that are full before they reach later stops, leaving guests waiting for the next bus while watching others depart. The Skyliner gondola connecting Epcot and Hollywood Studios to the Riviera, Pop Century, Art of Animation, and Caribbean Beach resorts is genuinely pleasant when operating, but has a documented history of weather-related closures that leave those resort guests without primary transportation unexpectedly. Reason 2. The emotional math has changed. For most families who visit Disney World, the trip is not simply a vacation. It is a specifically charged experience that carries the weight of childhood memories, family bonding expectations, and the specific cultural narrative of Disney as the place where magic happens. This emotional investment is real, and it is the reason families pay what Disney charges and plan as extensively as they do. The emotional math of a Disney World trip in 2024 is affected by every friction point, every cost calculation, and every moment where the experience falls below the expectation that the emotional investment created. When a child has a 90-minute tantrum because the standby line for a ride that was in their favorite movie is 80 minutes long and the family did not buy Genie Plus, the specific failure is not the tantrum. It is the collision between what the marketing promised and what the experience delivered. The fan community has a term for this phenomenon: the Disney bubble. The bubble is the specific state of suspended reality that Disney's immersive environment creates. The feeling of being inside a world that has been designed to make you happy. The bubble requires maintenance. It requires that the food is good enough, the crowds manageable enough, the show quality high enough, and the logistical friction low enough that the designed emotional experience can dominate over the operational reality. When the friction exceeds a threshold, the bubble breaks. A broken Disney bubble is one of the more specifically dispiriting experiences available to someone who genuinely loved the place. Long-term Disney fans document the bubble-breaking phenomenon in specific and consistent terms: the moment they stopped believing that what they were paying for was what was being delivered. This moment is occurring earlier in trips and more consistently across the guest population than at any previous point in Disney World's history, based on the sustained and documented shift in guest satisfaction scores and in the volume and tone of fan community discussion. The bubble-breaking sequence documented most commonly in fan community discussion. Day 1 arrival, excitement. The bubble is intact. Day 2 involves the Genie Plus management reality and a longer than expected wait for a priority attraction. The bubble develops its first crack. Day 3 involves an unexpectedly expensive dining experience, a broken show element in a classic attraction, and a late afternoon crowd surge that makes movement through the park genuinely difficult. The bubble is fragile. Day 4 involves a specific calculation about what the trip has cost so far against what it has delivered, and the number does not feel right. This is not the Disney trip that the marketing shows. The marketing shows joyful children, efficient queues, and spontaneous magical moments. The actual trip involves significant logistics, occasional disappointment, and a continuous financial pressure that the marketing does not photograph. The gap between the marketed experience and the delivered experience was always present to some degree. Marketing for any expensive product is aspirational rather than documentary. The gap has widened in the period since the pandemic, and the people who have been going to Disney World for 20 or 30 years are the ones most qualified to measure how wide it has gotten. The specific question that the Disney fan community has been asking publicly and with increasing frankness is whether the park that Walt Disney World is today is the park they want to keep visiting at the prices Disney is currently charging. A growing number of them are concluding that it is not. Reason 1. Disney has stopped pretending it cares about the guest. This is the most subjective reason on the list and also the most consistently cited by long-term Disney fans as the core of their dissatisfaction. Disney World's founding operational philosophy, articulated by Walt Disney and implemented by the early Imagineers and by Disney's extensive guest services training, was that the guest's experience was the primary product, and every operational decision was made in service of that experience. The specific expression of this philosophy was the concept of pixie dust, the discretionary goodwill that cast members were trained and empowered to dispense. Free ice cream for a child whose cone dropped, a spontaneous upgrade for a guest celebrating a birthday, the extra minute a character would spend with a child who was having difficulty. These interactions were not scripted. They were the product of a training culture that told cast members that making the guest experience extraordinary was their primary job function and that they had the authority to do it. The cast member culture has been documented to have shifted in ways that parallel Disney's broader operational changes. Cast member pay at Disney World, which starts at approximately $17 to $19 per hour for entry-level positions, following wage increases negotiated with the Service Trades Council Union, remains below the level needed to attract and retain the hospitality talent that the pixie dust culture required. Cast member turnover has been higher since the pandemic workforce disruptions, and the training investment per cast member has been affected by both budget constraints and the operational demands of managing the app-based park systems that now occupy cast member attention. The specific guest experience of the shift, fewer spontaneous positive interactions, more transactional encounters, a cast member culture that is competent in executing the operational systems but less immersed in the guest experience first philosophy that defined Disney's operational culture in its peak periods. As Walt Disney World veteran and former Imagineer Marty Sklar, who worked at Disney for 54 years before his death in 2017, described the fundamental principle that made Disney parks work. Walt always said the most important thing in the park is the guest who is standing in front of you right now, not the ones who are coming tomorrow. Not the quarterly revenue, the person right there. Whether that principle is still operationally primary in the Disney World of 2024 is what every long-term fan is currently deciding for themselves. 11 reasons, pricing that has left middle-income families behind, a paid line-skipping system that replaced a free one, mandatory app management, hotels that no longer justify their premium, deliberate crowd management that hasn't actually managed the crowds, food quality that doesn't match what they're charging, maintenance standards that have visibly slipped, a park that monetizes everything, arrival logistics that add an hour to every day, the emotional bubble that breaks more easily now, and a guest-first culture that long-term fans feel they have watched fade. Disney World is still Disney World. The question is whether it's the same Disney World. Hit that like button and subscribe. More content like this coming.